become arguably the best player in the league and now has 2 finals MVPs to back him up. Hornets head coach James Borrego was with the Spurs for 3 seasons with Kawhi and said, quote, nobody saw this coming in Kawhi. Now, Chris Broussard is back with us, but Skip, because we are talking Kawhi, I know this one, it's personal for you in a lot of ways. How much have you seen Kawhi improve?
By the way, he's still number 2 to me.
No, it ain't Kawhi.
Not there yet.
Here's my bottom line to watching this guy as closely as I've watched him since he was drafted 15th overall by the San Antonio Spurs. In all my years of watching the NBA, of covering it, loving the NBA, I have never, ever seen a superstar, a potential best player in the game of his time, improve as much as this guy has since he was drafted. Never. Because all the other superstars at least flashed some of their greatness when they were in college, even if it was just for a year. You saw flashes of it. I watched this guy play only 1 college game, but I did follow him at San Diego State. I watched him play Jimmer Fredette's team in their conference final, and they just blew him out, and they were all over Jimmer. He had a long night that night. But this guy did not catch my eye when he played for San Diego State because this guy could really defend, but he was mostly just an athlete who could dunk, a little bit rebounding, average 2 assists a game. So I didn't see the passing. I didn't see any shooting at all because he had no real shot. So I couldn't see anything that has now emerged. And I definitely couldn't see it after they drafted him 15th overall because that move shocked the whole league and all the draft experts. Nobody saw that coming. R.C. Buford, I always tell you guys, best GM in basketball, has the best eye for talent in all of basketball. You know, he went down and plucked Tony Parker at the bottom of the first round and Manu Ginobili at the bottom of the second round. We could go on and on. But this one, he gave up George Hill for this pick. George Hill? He even got Davis Bertans, who's turned out to be pretty good. They gave him away because they were going to have Marcus Morris on their team, and they got burned on that deal. But again, Davis is pretty good, and he's playing for Washington now. But they got him back, and they got number 2 back in this deal for George Hill. I never even liked George Hill that much, so I wasn't losing any sleep over that. But when he first came to the Spurs, he couldn't shoot a lick. And I saw no playmaking skills because he didn't seem to have any passing instincts in his repertoire yet. So for that guy to grow this much, there's never been anything like it before. And I agree with the quote you just read because nobody saw it coming even his first 2 years in San Antonio. And he did break through in 2014 and win MVP of the finals. But I've showed you, you could have given it to Timmy Duncan, you could have given it to Manu, or you could have given it to Tony Parker. I can make cases for all of them, but they did give it to him. And he can defend LeBron, but you always throw back at me, what are the, it's all like 28, 8, 8.
28, 76.
Okay, all right, and I'm with you on that.
And he was a role player that regular season.
He was a role player, okay? So to me, the emergence of this guy that I keep watching from night to night, the other night it was just Charlotte, I give you this, but he's turned into this unbelievable playmaker with Jordan-esque ability to hang and shoot that jump shot.
Yes.
And the Spurs sort of shot coach, if you will, Chip England, taught him a shot, and boy, he keeps taking it up a level and up another level. It is an unstoppable mid-range jump shot. And his three-point stroke is looking pretty good, and he can make free throws, and now he can play make because he's so patient. It's like he's got the game on a string. He waits, and then he takes advantage of this, and it's a little slick bounce pass for a dunk. You know, he is playing at a supremely high level that I didn't see in his first 2 years in San Antonio, and I definitely didn't see at San Diego State, where he averaged 16 points a game.
This is what happens when you get an opportunity, Skip. You have to credit Kawhi for keep putting in the work and for keep getting better and better. But you have to understand,
He
Skip,
does work at it.
outside of the injury, he's improved his scoring every single year. And people say, well, I didn't see this playmaking. He had Tony Parker, who had the ball. He needed to be ball dominant. And when Tony Parker went to the bench, who did they put the ball in his hands? Manu Ginobili. So he's a quiet guy. He goes to a team that has Timmy Duncan, who's a 2-time regular season MVP, a 3-time finals MVP. He's not wired like Kobe that automatically goes to a team and says, I'm the best player on the team.
Okay.
It's kind of like New England and San Antonio is a lot alike. What players go into New England and says, I'm the best player on the team, I'm better than Tom Brady? That's not how he's wired. He goes to Toronto. Kyle Lowry has the ball. So he's not in a situation so he can show you that he can play make. But Skip, when you look at it, it took some guys it takes longer to flourish. And when they get that opportunity, look at Steve Nash. Steve Nash was just a guy. He didn't make the All-Star till the 6th season. And then once he took off, he was a 2-time league MVP.
Yeah, but he was a little bit a product of that Mike D'Antoni system.
And look at Giannis. Look how far Giannis has come. Wasn't Giannis a lower draft pick than Kawhi?
I know, but you could see
he was
when I first watched Giannis play, I could say, "Wow, look at that!"
Yeah,
size,
you're like,
athleticism.
look how skinny. Man, the dude like 7 foot tall and skinny. And James Harden. Anybody that tell you that they saw this coming from James Harden when he was the sixth man in OKC.
No, but I watched him a lot at Arizona State, and he had that slither.
Yeah,
he could just get to the rack.
But Skip, nobody saw what James Harden is doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to go back. I mean, only a handful of guys in the last 30 years could score the basketball like James Harden. Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant. Nobody else can do this. Dude averaged 36. Jordan averaged 37-1 that great season he had. And Kobe was 35. James Harden in the middle with 36. So,
yeah, but trust me, in 2012 against the Spurs in the playoffs, James Harden just took the games over. He was the guy making the daggers when he was the sixth man for Oklahoma City.
But you did see
I saw it coming.
But you saw it in San Antonio. Yeah. He was all NBA. The moment Tim Duncan left.
Talking about Kawhi.
Why? The moment Tim Duncan left, Skip, and Coach Pop put more responsibility on his plate, he's for all NBA twice. He's Defensive Player of the Year twice.
I think Shannon makes an interesting point that a lot of it, now, granted, he's improved by leaps and bounds. But I do think he may have been capable of showing more early on in his career. Because as Shannon said, it was running through the big three in San Antonio. Kawhi was just a role player. And you're right, he didn't look like he had much of a jump shot. But if you look at his numbers three-point-wise, he's consistent. His rookie year, he shot 37% from three. Career, 38% from three. Now he's at 36. So, I mean, he's always, now he didn't shoot it as much. Maybe 1.5, 2 a game early on. But his percentage three-point-wise is the same. And you're right, the playmaking was never asked of him. But you did see it once Duncan and those guys left. I remember that series with Houston. When in Memphis in those games, he was playmaking like a point forward. And they were running through him. So I do think he had maybe more than he could have shown, but they just need him to be a role player. What's interesting to me, I think some players have improved more. Gary Payton, now I know he was a star in college, but when he came into the league, he struggled his first 3 years.
Okay, but I saw Gary Payton in college.
We knew, I give you that. We all knew how great he was.
He was always there.
I mean, he was on the cover of Sports
Illustrated for his mouth and all that. And you already talked about Nash, Stockton, didn't start really like his first 3 years. This is the thing that's intriguing to me. If you go all the way back into the 60s and maybe beyond, the guy that's been the best player in the world, whether you want to say it was Bill Russell, Wilt, or Oscar in the 60s, Dr. J or Kareem in the 70s, Magic and Bird in the 80s, Jordan in the 90s, up to Shaq and Kobe and LeBron. All of them have been one of two things. Childhood prodigies, where you just knew what they were, or, to your point, they come into the NBA and we know they're supers, like Jordan. Even if you want to say Olajuwon for those few years, once you knew, okay, when he's drafted, by that point you knew he was a star. This is intriguing to me because I do think Kawhi deserves the title right now, best player in the world. Now, whether, will Giannis take it this year? Will LeBron? Will AD? It's up for grabs. But right now, based on what he did last year, what he's done so far, I think it's fair to say it's Kawhi. Never have we seen the best player, to your point, best player in the world be a guy that kind of came out of nowhere.
Right, because he did play at San Diego State. He didn't register.
Right.
I mean,
he was good in the tournament. I remember he made a little noise.
They won a couple games, lost to UConn, but it wasn't like this.
It was kind of like what, Timmy stayed all 4 years.
He did.
But you knew, but you knew when he got his kid, like, this dude's special. This dude is special. And being the best player, Skip, I just think with Kawhi's personality, he went in like, I'm happy to be here. I'm not going to upset this apple cart because it's been going along so good. You got Tim Duncan, you got Manu, you got Tony Parker. And how do you come in and say, I'm better than all three of you guys?
Okay, but just I get you, and you're right about that. And he was kind of a shrinking violet the first couple. He's like, do I deserve to be here? He's got shrugging shoulders, his eyes are down. But if he were the guy that you see today with that chest out, if he'd walked onto the floor with his talent as a rookie, those other three would have said, uh-oh, he's that good. Because we've seen guys come in, like when Magic joined the Lakers, they just said, whew, he's the guy.
Well, probably,
right?
Skip, if he was a point guard, you got the ball in your hand. But even then, Kareem was the regular season MVP. So Magic did not just come in and say, oh, it's my team now. Kareem was still throwing that sky hook. Magic, we knew Magic was special because we saw him in '79. Skip.
We saw it.
And then it was that once he got to the playoffs, and we said, it's never